culture in our community that in fact is acceptable, or that in fact is how we want to be referred to.
But this has been going on for years, leading young people to devalue education, leading people to say, oh, it's just a rite of passage to go to jail for a young black man. You disagree?
I disagree that, and if we're at a point where we've got to change the expectations in our community, then leadership at every level has to embrace that point. It is a combination of ensuring early childhood education. It's a combination of ensuring that there's equitable funding. It's a combination of making sure that there are qualified teachers in every classroom. It's a combination of ensuring that schools are a healthy and safe environment for our children, that they have good books, that they have computers. But it also begins in the home, it begins in the community, it begins in the church. We have really, really got to step up our game, step up our conversation in that level. And I'm urging Urban League affiliate leaders around the nation to bring that message back to the communities that they work.
This is an important national effort. I think there's more that industry can do, there are more that the captains can do, but I do see continuing signs of commitment, which is very encouraging.
John Hofmeister, let me ask you about this report on the state of the black male. How does it impact you?
It impacts me in several ways, both as the incoming chair, in which my company, me in particular, have a long association with the National Urban League. My company goes back 40 years in its association of working with the National Urban League. I go back, really, 1973 was the first time I got connected to the National Urban League in Cleveland, Ohio, at the beginning of my professional career. As the head of a company, it affects me every day because we have a workforce set of initiatives that focuses on people of color, focuses on where do they come from, how do we develop them, how do they get promoted in our company, how do we help them to be successful in the work life that we do at Shell Oil Company. So every day I'm spending time on the subject, and I care deeply as a business leader about the future or the state of black America.
Does anything alarm you as you heard the report today about the African American male more likely to drop out of school, more likely to be incarcerated? How does that strike you?
I've been alarmed for a long time, and I think so has my company. And so we have concentrated on what can we do. What can we as individuals, what can our company do to work with the right people in addressing these problems? Whether this at a local level, a state level, a federal level, we're committed across the board to try to work with the right agencies. National Urban League is one where what the National Urban League and its affiliates do, we know it works. And as Marc Morial has said on a number of occasions, how do we take what works to scale?
Now, Mr. Hofmeister, when you're speaking, lots of people are saying, well, there's a captain of American industry. What are you hearing from other captains of American industry, people in your position, when they are thinking about the conditions, especially of poor, low-income minorities in America?
Mm-hmm. Let me approach it in two ways. One is, let's talk about the industry of which I'm a part, America's energy industry. I know for a fact that my colleagues and other companies have very similar focus on the future of educated people, particularly with backgrounds in math and science. The American Petroleum Institute, which all the major oil companies are members, has concentrated on workforce development, and in particular approaching the diversity of the population that's emerging across the country, recognizing the demographics for what they are, promoting job skill developments in states like Louisiana, Texas, and other states. And so from an industry standpoint, there's quite a concentrated effort to raise the game, raise the awareness, and make things happen. And we have some good programs at work. Larger, more broadly, as I meet with heads of companies in a variety of venues, the subject comes up repeatedly, because this has been a situation that we've had to deal with for many, many years. And how do we get better at it? How do we address not just the education, but how does industry help support the kinds of other infrastructure requirements that are necessary to raise the game in communities, in school systems, in the larger population centers in which many of us have our headquarters. This is an important national effort. I think there's more that industry can do, there are more that the captains can do, but I do see continuing signs of commitment, which is very encouraging.
John Hoffmeister, so it's not the case that for you at Shell or for any of these other corporate captains that they're writing off a population that's struggling as poorly educated, struggling to get the skills necessary to move up in American corporate mainstream, and looking overseas to other populations?
I can't speak for all companies. I can certainly speak for my company. We think it would be just an awful experience to write off a population. How do you ever recover? We're very deeply concerned about how we proceed, how we progress, how we make inroads into the kinds of situations that we've been talking about. Lifting people up one at a time, lifting people up many at a time. I was encouraged recently to join up with a number of our interns these are students who come to us in the summertime and spend a couple of months working for us. And I'm speaking of the summer of 2006, in which we had a greater representation of people of color, including African Americans, than in the past. I was deeply encouraged when I looked at the statistics for 2006 hiring at Shell, where people of color entered our workforce as new graduates at the rate of 40% of the new class of graduates.
That's amazing.
That's a number greater than the availability in the population statistics. It demonstrates that success is possible if you put your mind to it, you put it as a priority of the business, because as we look ahead into the years of 20, 30, 40 years into the future, the young people we're hiring today are going to be the leaders of tomorrow. And so we want our population of tomorrow to reflect today's population today. And so this effort to bring people of color into Shell is a very important part of our business strategy.
So when I'm listening to you and understanding your leading role with the National Urban League as incoming chair, this is really not just about today for you. You're looking to the future. You're looking to a demographic shift in America that involves more people of color and so many of these young people who today are struggling for educational opportunity and job training.
We're headquartered in Texas. It's one of the most diverse states in the country. I'm very impressed with the inclusiveness of the community of Houston, Texas, where we operate. I think it's an excellent motivator for what we do for the youth of today, so they are reflected in our managerial population in the days of tomorrow. And taking the steps that we are will make it happen. But I think that's really has to be true across the nation, because the demography of tomorrow is going to be different than the demographics of today. But there's one other important aspect of this which is critical in a technical company like we are and like many others are, and that is the concentration on math and science of young people really needs to be addressed in ways that are fun, exciting, motivating. And so as a consequence of that, we address teacher development. How do teachers enable their children in the classroom to see math as fun, math as exciting, math which stimulates the curiosity of the student? Because today's students, if they don't enjoy math and science, they'll be frustrated from a career standpoint in getting into technical companies, because they need to be numerate, they need to think in terms of the math and science kind of concepts. And so we work very hard to stimulate young people in the classroom today in a number of states across the country.
People have to understand their role in society, the contributions they can make to society, and how democracy is extremely dependent upon people being engaged in their respective communities and voting. If you want to engage in a revolutionary process, vote and be involved in your respective communities.